our 95.7 The Game San Francisco Giants insider, courtesy of the River Islands guest line. And Dave, we'll just start right there. Some legit pop right there. Nice to see a positive sign from Bryce Eldridge.
Well, we've had a lot of positive signs from him, haven't we? We have. That was an impressive swing. I think I said it on the air when he hit it, that's the one that if you want to just clip one swing in one moment and understand why this guy has a chance to be one of the best hitters in the game, I think that would be as good of an example as you could find. And I give him a lot of credit. Like, this has been a crazy year for him. I mean, first of all, you're 21 years old and you fly through the minor leagues and you find yourself in the big leagues. And then you're in the midst of this kind of chaotic big league season where it can rattle even veterans who've been around. And the expectation level and some of the controversies surrounding this team, he has stayed above it all. Bryce has stayed positive and focused all year long. Now, in the last few weeks, I think what's been most impressive to me is one of the things you got to learn when you're a big leaguer is learn how to play through pain, play through injury. And this guy's thumb has been bothering him for a long time. And so the fact that he's been able to play through it, not been as productive, and that's partially, look, he's learning. Pitchers are approaching him differently. Like, the learning curve goes in wacky directions. But it's also partially he just hasn't been close to 100%. And you learn how to deal with that stuff, and that's a part of being a pro. And so I love seeing last night's swing just because that's the one that when he's right and experienced and settled in and comfortable, we're going to see that swing a lot from him. I would say it's weird because we've had this incredibly disappointing Giants season. There have been a lot of positives in the midst of all the stuff that's gone on, but I rank him number one. If you're asking me what's the number one positive of this season, his development, his emergence, his readiness to handle what's been thrown at him is number one for me.
Yeah, I think most fans would agree with that. It does feel like it's like, and I don't want to say audition time because that feels like nothing matters, but I think it does matter for a lot of guys. Drew Gilbert having moments defensively and offensively over the last week is mattered. I guess the question when I see Christian Koss, Basabe, McCray, you're going to have different levels of success. How long of a runway do you give these guys before they give other guys opportunities to fail and succeed? Like, I see a lot of Giants fans losing their minds about McCray. And I think defensively, he's made some really nice plays. He's misplayed a couple, but I think he's made some nice plays. Hey, how long do you let this guy kind of play this thing out before you go screaming and yelling for the next guy up from AAA?
The problem is they're just, I don't know that the next guy up is quite ready. I think you have to – running a baseball team is hard in so many ways, but part of it, what makes it hard is you do have to prioritize individual development while your ultimate priority is winning games at the big league level. But you can't – we had this whole discussion about Bryce and was he ready and were they rushing him and then were they icing him by not playing him? And those are the kind of conversations that go on with every player. Like, how are we best handling this guy's personal development in the context of winning games? And they have some guys, that Jonah Cox could come back up here and play more. I mean, he would be one that I would think they would want to get more big league exposure before the year is over. And Jonah's been a good, he's done a really nice job of going down there and performing at AAA, not sulking, not being like, why I got hurt, why am I now back down here? Not for him. He's done exactly what you want him to do. There are a couple other players who are doing well down there who might get a shot before the end of the year. But I think, Joe, the thing that's most disappointing about this right now is so many of the guys who fall in that category are hurt. And whether it's Susak and Rodriguez behind the plate, or now Barracoto's back, so that helps because I think you want to see more at-bats from him. But when he and Cox were both hurt, like the young guys, Schmidt obviously stands out. Schmidt's in a different category of an established big leaguer, but still a guy you'd like to see getting at-bats here. That has thinned things out so much that after the trade deadline, it's not to say these guys can't carve out roles for themselves and can't be a part of the Giants' future, but you're not seeing all of those players that this would be the ideal time to have getting reps at this level. A lot of those guys just aren't available.
You referenced the Susac injury. That one sucks. He's dealt with a couple of different things this year. It's given Drew Kavanaugh an opportunity to take some, spots behind home plate. I've actually been impressed with him. They're going up with a lot of inexperienced pitchers. And though the 90 feet he gave up the night before ended up, really doing them in, I've kind of liked Drew Kavanaugh back there, but I do still feel like catching it's just a big question mark for this organization.
For sure. It is for a lot of organizations. It's hard to find catching. And, they did trade away Patrick Bailey, and Patrick Bailey had his pluses and minuses, but his pluses were really, really extreme. And I know why they did it, but they put themselves in a position where they've got to figure this out with some young guys, and it's not that comfortable of a position. So I would imagine that one task for the offseason is going to be thinking about that. Now, I like Kavanaugh. I like Susac. I think they've got something in both those guys. I think they have a player in Jesus Rodriguez. Again, these are just important reps that he's missing, where behind the plate, they're trying to make the judgment of how much catching can this guy take on. I think he can do it. Can he be an everyday guy? That's a high bar to clear, but can he be a part of the catching group? I think he can. Those are three. A lot of teams would like to have those three young guys. The question is, can you turn the reins over to them entirely, or do you need some more veteran presence on the team? That's an offseason question. Kavanaugh specifically, look, last or 2 nights ago, could he have done a better job? Probably, but those were not. I don't put that on him. He's generally done a good job. He moves a lot. I do want to talk to him about that. He's a great kid. A lot of catchers now, you watch catchers catch and they've become so quiet, and they're taught to become so quiet. And Kavanaugh's not like that. It's a different style. And I do wonder whether maybe calming some of that down would help. Pitchers are enjoying throwing to him. They love throwing to Susac. I mean, I hear from Giants pitchers all over the place about how quiet and good of a target and big of a target Susac gives them. Susac's got to get stronger. Kavanaugh's got to get stronger. Kavanaugh's got to maybe get a little quieter behind the plate. I'm not a catching expert, but that's just my eyes watching him. But those are things you can work on, and I think there's a lot of aptitude with those too. So I'm bullish on the future of the Giants catching position. It's just so hard to be young. Posey is so rare. Bailey, in a way, is so rare to have catchers who can be that young and take on such a leadership role.
When you're talking about the catching position, and just my head goes to so many challenges this year, both on our offense and on our defense. And I want to float this by you, because I was telling the boys this. I view these as very critical, these challenges. It's year one. Everyone's experimenting. I understand it. In my view, I have come to the realization that too many teams, the Giants are included in this, but everyone, we are burning these challenges inappropriately. I would use the challenges. You only get 2. I would view them this way. Guys, we are trying to negate an out, okay? Just because it's ball 1 or strike 1 or even strike 2 or ball 3, do not use it in that scenario. I want you to use it strictly to remove a called strike 3 out, right? So that the at-bat continues, or on a borderline, let's say it's a 3-2 or whatever, you give up a walk, challenge it in that scenario to put an out on the board. I think there has been way too much flippant use of the challenge in general, league-wide, to just get into a better hitter's count or to, take the first strike off the board. And I think strategically it's a horrible usage of it. In my estimation, it's a weapon, and I think we are misusing the weapon.
Well, I think this is, some sports debates are just silly and seem like, what are we doing? Are we trying to debate stuff just for the heck of it? This is like a really fun, interesting sports debate. And you guys could talk about this in the wintertime and have you could have a show devoted to this and the strategy and who's right and who's wrong. And, the counter is, I'll give you a counter. I was in DC on Sunday for my NBC Peacock game, and the Reds are by far the best team at this. And the main reason is their catcher's he's just awesome at it. And he's doing it the whole game, and he's getting it right every time. It's unbelievable how good this guy is at it. And I think if you have somebody like that, it would be silly not to allow that player to steal strikes throughout the game if he just proves that he's. And I think that's where the first half of this season maybe was a lot of these teams like, let's watch these guys do it. We've never had this before. See how good everybody is at it. I'm with you. I think if I were in charge of a franchise, I would have some guardrails on, and I would let players. I would let players show me, are you good at this? Do you really like Bryce Eldridge is great at this. I would give Bryce basically the green light. If you know it's a ball, challenge. I'm okay with that. Last night, I kind of got on Kavanaugh a little bit because late in the game, the Giants have a 3-run lead. Its base is empty, maybe 2 outs, and it's a 1-0 count or a 0-1 count, and he uses a challenge and is wrong at it. And, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, is that the right time to use it? No. But then it's Yordan Alvarez. And so I think there's at least a debate where, okay, it's the best hitter on the planet right now. All the analytics guys, all of them will argue with you and me. They all will say the difference between 0-1 and 1-0 is massive. The difference between 2-1 and 1-2 is massive in predicted outcomes. And if you get that right more often than not over the course of a season, you gain massively. If it doesn't matter where in the game you are. But I think I'm with you. I would rather use these a little more strategically. And that doesn't mean save them for the 9th inning. But I think whether it's sort of walk, strikeout counts, runners on base, your big guys up, big moments in the game, I think that's where you want to make sure you have them. So it's actually, I don't, I was indifferent about this system, but it really has added a layer of strategy to the game that I didn't anticipate.
So there's never a catch-all, right? There's always a little bit of wiggle room. And I think your point about Yordan Alvarez is a good one. I look at it this way, right? Okay, I said, hey, only to remove or keep it out. But let's say there's the tying run at third base, and it's the difference between being in a 2-strike situation versus a 1-strike situation, right? I could make the argument, no, I want to be able to get that bunt down or have 2 extra cracks at hitting a fly ball to drive that run in. Totally understand that. But to you, first inning, third pitch of the game? Come on, guys. I think that's a silly usage. And I hear the analytics over a year. When you have 500 at-bats times 9 guys in the lineup, I get the difference between a 2-1 and a 1-2 count. But within the fabric of that game, you still have extra pitches to make up a base hit. I don't know, man. I've watched it all year, and I've let it play out. And I said to the guys the other day, I go, we're just using them way too flippantly for my liking.
Just 2 quick follow-ups. Yeah. One, I think, Adames and Devers just frankly haven't been very good at this.
No.
And I think a lot of the veteran hitters have been the worst at this, not just on the Giants, but across the board. The young guys, some of whom have had experience with this in the past, seem to be more dialed into it's like the veterans are more used to a strike zone that can float and is a little different umpire to umpire, and the young guys are just used to the box and they know the box. And so I'm not picking on Adames and Devers, but I think if you watch even last night's game, those 2 in particular are way more judicious right now than they were. They are not using and I think whether it's self-awareness or whether it's just an appreciation of the kind of thing that you're talking about, save it for a spot that really is important. And I think it's been a learning experience for those guys as much as anybody. The second quick point to make, and then we can move on and talk about something else. But it's an interesting topic here. Here's what I've heard from some coaches and managers, because I've asked this to everybody. When I go to do these other games and I get access to Blake Butero, who Tony Kornheiser calls the baby manager of the Nationals, or, Terry Francona, who's the most veteran guy around. Like, whether it's young guys, old guys, I like to ask about, how do you think this is playing out? Do you have strategy? Have you changed your opinion about this? One thing I hear a lot is it's so hard to compete in the batter's box. You got so much information. You're thinking with the pitcher, you're trying to anticipate. You're thinking about what he used the first at bat against you, what your scouting report says, what your eyes are telling you. And the brain only has the capacity for so much. And I think there is a real reluctance to pile on more strategy and game planning to tell hitters, no, not this, yes, this, no, this, when already it takes so much focus and concentration just to take one major league at bat. I do think that there's been an overriding feeling of, we can't complicate this for these guys. And it would be one thing if, like, there could be a captain in the dugout who says, is barking up, but you can't do that. Part of the thing is they don't want any possibility of cheating or getting help. So you got to make the decision fast. You can't have any help. And so I do sympathize with that, of not wanting to add extra layers on players who already have a lot on their plate.
Talking with Dave Flemming here on the River Islands Guest Line, voice of the Giants for NBC Sports Bay Area, R95.7 The Game, Giants insider as well. Dave, is NBC doing any playoff games this year on the national broadcast?
Yeah, all the wild card rounds. So the entire wild card round will be NBC Peacock and NBC Sports. And so I'll do one, which we don't know which of those series, but I'll do one of those wild card series for NBC. And
I guarantee at some point, I know we're going to get off the ABS eventually, but I guarantee at some point in this playoffs, it might come down to an ABS call at some point. Like, a big play or big moment might come down to it. And there is going to be a dramatic factor to it, which is going to be pretty cool.
It will be. It'll be controversial for sure. I mean, it's not the yes or no is not controversial at all. But the using of, you can definitely envision a scenario where the Cubs are playing the Phillies in the wild card round, and it's inning 2 against Zach Wheeler, and Pete Crow Armstrong is up and burns a challenge and isn't right, and you can imagine that would not sit well if it doesn't turn out well. So it will add an extra layer for sure. You think back to, we just had the Wall of Fame stuff at the ballpark this last weekend with Panic and Crawford. That double play that everybody will remember forever in the history of the Giants was the first replay review in the history of the World Series. And if that had been 1 year earlier, it would have been 1 out and no double play. And maybe Affeldt doesn't get through the full 4 innings, and maybe Bumgarner doesn't get to start an inning clean, and who the heck knows? But the replay gave the Giants that double play, and it was the first overturn in the history of the World Series.
So, Dave, I went out to the game on Monday with the little guy, and, there's just something I got to say. Like, I'm not trying to be some homer, but it's the truth. You go into that ballpark, you can't go and not have fun. It's Disneyland, and my kid loves it out there. And so we went out to the little field. He's hitting wiffle balls off the fence, and they've got the jumbotron where he's running around, and he's like, "Hey, that's me," up on the jumbotron. We did our laps, and they got this section now in center field below where there's a bunch of arcade games that you don't have to put quarters into, like skee ball and shooting hoop. We had a great time. But I said to the boys, I go, 2 big takeaways. There were a lot of people out there for a Monday night game with school coming back. That's number 1. And number 2, I couldn't believe how many people were booing Altuve.
Yeah.
I go, I don't understand. Like, what do Giants
people
fans
don't forget,
hate
Joe? Dave, people don't forget.
But it was a little bizarre. And I guess, like, the soul of going to the games, and I know people want to poke fun at where the Giants are at or whatever. People are still out there. They're having a great time. They're booing. They're cheering. I saw a lot of people rooting for Blade Tidwell. All the kids, I got home. We left at 8:30. All the kids had their shirts off. They were going tarps off in the extra innings. I don't know. Like, baseball still 20 games out, 1 million, losses in a row, and this team still drums up a lot of fun for the fan base. And there's something pure about going to the yard. It's not even a question. It's just me making a statement on how much fun I have going out there.
And I've said it to you guys, even on just a baseball side all summer long, like, that to me, it can be the downside, but it's also what's great about baseball is you just have so many of these games. And so there is an opportunity. Every night can be like Monday's game was a really tough loss. It was a great game. It was a thrilling, dramatic game that gave you all the drama you would want in something to watch on a night where, you got nothing else going on. Like you got a great time out of it. And it can be agonizing when a season's not going well and you feel like, can we get to the finish line, please? But every night, even in a season like this has been about as nightmarish of a season for the Giants as I can ever remember. They've had worse teams. Like this team has vastly underachieved its talent level, but that doesn't mean like this team is better than a lot of the Giants teams that I've watched struggle over my 25 years. But that's why it's been so disappointing for so many people. And yet I can think of almost like an endless number of moments that were thrilling all year. And the ballpark is great. And so that's why sometimes we lose sight of the big picture. And, Buster has been teased relentlessly about this idea of like making memories. And like, did he use a phrase that maybe was easy to tease him about? Yeah, probably so. But his point is a good one. His point is like, can we put a team on the field that we're proud of, that is fun to watch? And, that to me means it's not always championship or bust in baseball. It's not. The regular – I know a lot of baseball fans who love the regular season more than they love the playoffs. The playoffs are a whole different thing, and they're dramatic in their own way. And baseball playoffs can be the most dramatic of any sport you can watch. But a lot of people just want to have a summertime companion and some players they like to root for and a ballpark they love going to and a beer that tastes cold. And that is different in baseball. And it's okay to admit that. And it's okay to say that's a big reason why I love this sport.